Well, today I wanted to go over how we are broken, the styles that we are broken overall. Consciousness is broken. Your mind, your soul, your fire is broken in a sense in order to maintain this dominion of gods and kings. I'll try to make this as short as possible because well, I just did a video and it cut off, and it cut off some of like the best parts towards the end. But I'll try to just breeze through it since I pretty much mentioned this information already. I just wanted to give another angle of how we are broken down on so many levels and also broken up. That's another style of breaking people. So we are distracted by the system overall, but we are also broken on the soul, mind, and body level with various microwaves or conditionings or distraction programs. So one level, and I won't go too deeply into them because everybody pretty much who watches these videos pretty much already knows where I'm coming from, but you have the soul conditioning program that is a way of from the perspective of the mainstream religions. Mainstream religions are designed to act as a middleman between you and your soul. It's under the guise of connecting you with the so-called God, but it is largely to create a buffer between you and your true fire, which is your understanding, and overstanding of the soul essence overall, who and what you are on every level, your meaning and your purpose that exists outside of being manipulated and controlled by artificial gods and kings. This is why they say we have to keep church and state separate. It's like that's an illusion, because when you realize that this is a spiritual warfare, you realize that there is no separation between church and state when you are at a spiritual warfare with the so-called new world order individuals. And that's why I get so like irritated a lot of the times when people say, well, the Illuminati and the new world order and the Kabbalah and it's expanding, it's doing all that stuff. That's a distraction program. Because if you don't realize already that this is a spiritual warfare, if you come at it from the fact that this is a spiritual warfare, then you'll realize that this has already been a new world order. You need them to put a fucking hat on it. Then you need a name tag that says, this is the new world order today. It's activated. It's like, here, look at the name tag and the hat and our shirts and our jackets. You need that to happen. You need it to become commercial before you realize that you have been manipulated on every single layer of existence. Your soul, your mind, and body has been locked down. When Christopher Columbus came over to the Americas, what did they call this? The New World. When he went over here and installed that sickness and disease, literally and psychologically, with stuff like mainstream religion, not to take anything away from the Bible and all that other stuff for people who go, I'm talking about the manipulation of that conditioning on purpose, the inherent intention to separate you, the indigenous and the aboriginal people, from their connections to nature. This is how you can maintain gods and kingdoms, is by separating people from their inherent fire on every layer of their existence, the soul, the mind, and the body. Maintain confusion and distraction within their conscious reality and keep them separated from their subconscious reality, which is their infinite soul connection, their dreams. Install synthetic dreams to keep people from dreaming and keep people from activating their dreams. You have them living in microwave synthetic dreams, dreams that are amplified by the system itself, that will maintain slaves and low vibrating minds within the kingdom of control, the colonial universe as a whole. This is why you have marriage and reproductive programming amplified in so many different storylines, in every storyline, because that turns you into a king of your kingdom, king and queen of your kingdom. You have now a responsibility. You don't have time to be looking at so-called conspiracies and all this other shit. You got to get shit done. You got to get food on the table. And like I said before, one thing that would be, I'll get into that in a second. I was going to talk about NASA and the tax dollars and all the garbage that gets pumped out by the system, and how we believe in these systems that literally takes food and resources from your children. I'll get into that in a second. But this is how far these illusions go. When you are locked into your own castle, then you don't have time to be questioning the foundation of that castle that provides your basic human needs, your human resources. And when it gets crazy out of hand, when you are broken all the way down, then you start defending those conditions and illusions. This is what happens to soldiers when they go into the military. Soldiers are broken down. Just like civilians are broken down. Soldiers are broken down in a way that's overt, quick, and effective. This is why they cut your hair. This is why they're yelling at you and they're turning you into a nothing, a number, a robot. Why? Because you have to act out the most heinous, inhumane actions in this reality when you're realizing that you are literally pulling the trigger for the military-industrial complex. You are literally pulling the trigger for the spiritual warfare that is manifested into the psychological warfare, that is manifested into the actual physical warfare, individually and collectively, where you have people who are dropping bombs on other people for no reason, for artificial security, insecure authoritarians who have convinced people to think and act a certain way. This is how you can make gods out of beings. When you convince sovereign entities, human sovereign people, to actually do your dirty work for you on the spiritual warfare level. This is how it becomes a spiritual warfare. You have sovereign beings, soul essence, to actually do the work. It's not just like one individual is doing this stuff. It's a number of people who have decided to trade their humanity away for the protection of this colonial universe mind control program. This is what the military is, and it manifests all the way down to the university system overall. You just defend it a different way. This is why when you get in there, your degrees, your master's degree, your bachelor's degree, your PhD, your whatever degrees, at your certificates, all this stuff, it creates a belief system. And we live in belief systems. We don't live in an understanding and overstanding and an understanding or a questioning of the reality as a whole. We live in belief systems. You believe in politics. You believe in NASA. You believe in CERN. You believe whatever these politicians tell you. You believe what you were conditioned with in the public education system. You believe what your parents told you and what they believed in. And they themselves were conditioned. You believe what your peers believe. And they're mind controlled on themselves, on their world. You believe what Hollywood tells you. You believe what the news and the alternative news and mainstream, all that stuff, you believe what they say. We believe our entire reality. And when you believe yourself into an entire existence, then you are believing yourself that's based upon illusions. Then you're believing yourself out of your soul, meaning, and purpose. You believe yourself into a reality that is based upon the constructs of a system that has zero interest in the well-being of who and what you are. This is what this system is based upon. The destructive intelligence gone out of hand, out of balance, out of control, into this so-called new world order based upon limitation and conditions that have zero concern for humanity. This system is based upon your separation. When you are separated from your soul with mainstream religions, you are susceptible to being separated on the mind. So when you're susceptible, when your power, that's a fire that gets dampened out. Your soul fire gets dampened out when you put something in between you and the Most High. When you put something in between you and your soul, your true potential. When you put something in between your family, your connection on that level, on that space, your relationships on that space. When there's something in between and formalized in between those realms, you are creating belief structures and you are putting out fire. So when your fire gets dampened out on the soul level, now your psychological fire needs to be dampened out. This is where the public education system comes in. This is where the university system comes in, the military industrial complex, the prison industrial complex. All of the realities that maintain a separation from you connecting with the higher mind, your highest potential on the psychological platform, your meaning and your purpose. Like I said in previous videos, all these Beethovens, Mozarts, Debussy's that are working at Home Depot and Target and Wendy's and McDonald's, all these people who are never allowed to tap into their soul, mind, or body fires because they have responsibilities to take care of based upon the illusory world, based upon this out of balanced nature. So if you can see the entire human system that we are experiencing today and how crazy it is, it destroys nature, which also separates you from every body that you have, soul, mind, and body. It separates you on every level when they are destroying the trees. The energy that you feel when a giant grandfather tree is cut down in front of you, that's something. That something is more of the something of who you are than anything else. You are 99.999 forever% more of your soul than you are this actual physical manifestation of this body. And the separation program means to convince you that it's the other way around. It convinces you of the material realm. This is what astrophysics, quantum physics, and all this physics programming is to the university system and the space programming as a whole. Convince you of that 0.00001% as the end all be all, which is why the university system is largely atheist. So it needs to destroy. This is why it can't make any connection with the soul. This is why it has to put itself up against the mainstream religions, and you make those your only two choices of beliefs. So you say, well, the university system, the religious people believe in creationism and all that stuff, and you know how bad the religions are. I'm not about all that stuff. That's just ridiculous. My parents were religious and they're crazy. They don't practice. That's just nonsense. So I guess I'm an atheist. Why? Because the university professors are atheists, and they're the ones who gave me the smartphone and computers and America Online and our infrastructure, our politics. It's all based upon the future that's promoted by these space movies, the future, and these professors who believe in robots and technology and space and NASA. Yeah, that's cool. Boom. Mind control complete. Separation from your soul complete. Because you have a lack of options. And if you are basing your options based upon what some external program gives you, then that's on you. You made the choice to choose that bag of shit. When they pass you 2 bags of shit and say choose one, and you just say okay instead of who the fuck are you in the first place, and why are you trying to pass me a bag of shit? 2 bags of shit. First of all, who are you? Who are you? And before that, who am I? Like, what am I? Why am I even paying attention to you? passing around. And what's the intention of passing around 2 bags of shit to people? What effect does that have on individuals in the collective over time? Huge effects this stuff has on individuals over time. And this is what this mind control program is on the soul, the mind, and the body. Through Hollywood, politics, the public education system, NASA, CERN, all the way through and through. And like I said in a previous video, it's hard to understand sometimes how people can believe in like the conspiracy of 9/11 and understand the conspiracy of the military-industrial complex and the wars that are a part of like the false flags that lead up to war and all the garbage that's in this world. But when they challenge the earth plane that is reinforced by the heliocentric model and the same individuals who are adding up to this new world, new age programming, that's out of line, that's out of hand. Oh, you can't say that. I can look up in the sky. That's proof. I can look up here and I can look up that and I can look here and I see this CGI image there. You've seen largely, you've been programmed with movies. You've been programmed by the same individuals who need to make dummies, low vibrating human beings, in order to make themselves out to be kings and gods of a dumpster fire. Gods and kings of dumpster fire consciousness. And if they can live, if they can reinforce and maintain that have and have nots program, then they're going to do it. Because people, the level of consciousness of people, allow it. That's what this is all about. You allow the spiritual warfare. You allow the psychological warfare. You allow the physical body warfare. So to stay on track, the mainstream religions, including the New Age religion, is another style of locking down your fire overall. So just like on a psychological focus of breaking down that happens when you join the military, a soldier, a human joining the military, and that drill sergeant gets you in your face, shut the fuck up, you ain't nothing, get down and do some push-ups, get over there, what the fuck you taking so long for? And they break you down like that. You start to love the system overall. Just like when you're a kid, a lot of kids, when you're going to school, a lot of kids, I remember the first days in school, I didn't want to be around, that. I don't want to listen to that teacher and follow those rules and do all that shit. You have like an emotional break. You are emotionally being broken down. That's what that is. And then your parents say, I got to go to work. Shut up and go to school. Just handle it. And the kid's like, okay, well. And then after a while, they start to like it. They start to like school. And you are literally sending your kids to like conditioning, like prison. It's like preschool prison. And it becomes like a spiritual Stockholm syndrome. It's not just about what's happening to your mind, it's what's happening to your spirit when you download the conditions of this heliocentric colonial universe that means to suck the life out of people. I remember there was ROTC in my high school. That's the military industrial complex at its highest game. And I wasn't even in ROTC and still ended up going into the army. So you can see what this does to people, how many people are celebrating that stuff. There's probably still ROTC going on in high schools right now. But yeah, so you get broken down when you're going into like school, when you're going into the military, in order to conform into a new reality, to become a new person. You are broken down in the military so you can do the shit that they need you to do that will protect the have and have nots program that allows the system to be a god and a king over you. overall. That's your job. So you need to be broken. And you are broken away. A low budget version of being broken is the mind control programming of Hollywood, the university system, TV shows, movies, your generations, your parents teaching you stuff. That's just another way of breaking you into being, like I said, you having Mozart, Beethoven, and Debussy's working at Burger King, Wendy's, and Chick-fil-A and all that stuff. They're working at KFC and never allowed to play their own music because they have convinced themselves to play the music of the colonial universe, the system that is God and King over all that, won't question the reality, still allows belief systems to rule over their consciousness. So the New Age is just another version of this. Instead of breaking you down, it breaks you up. So they say, oh, well, yeah, you're not part of that old world, that human destructive world. You're not human. You're Pleiadian. You're an Andromedan. You're an Orion. You're this star seed and you're that star seed. And it's not about what's happening with those people in that low vibrating consciousness. It's about love and light. It's about this. It's another version of separation. And since we have been beaten down so much by the destructive intelligence world, the New Age mentality is another version of escaping. So you create, and over time you create a nostalgia in that escape mechanism, just like you have a nostalgia with space movies and so on and so forth. You have a connection with NASA and don't even know it, with the pride in apparently going to the moon. Like you have a pride that you didn't even know about. If you believe in the heliocentric model and you believe the globe model and all this other stuff, then you have a pride in NASA. You have a pride in politics that is really unspoken of because they don't really want you to think about it too much. Because if you start thinking about it and questioning that reality, you'll start to break the conditions. You'll start to break the illusions. And that cannot be done. Just like these fake ass gurus in a lot of the New Age communities, they don't want you to start thinking or listening to other or start questioning realities at all because they need to make money off your ass in one way. But another way is that they need you to keep focusing your energy. That's what it really boils down to. Focus your energy. That's your fire. So your soul fire. So like I said, you can get broken down in every way. It doesn't matter, broken down or broken up. The thing is, you are broken. And you will never be able to tap into your fire on even the basic layers of the conscious and the subconscious, which is the linear and the infinite programming, or the infinite program existing as the divine feminine and the divine masculine balances of nature. You won't even be able to tap into that, let alone tap into the fire of your spirit, your mind, and your body. So we have the balances of nature that aren't only about the masculine and feminine energies, but you also have the balances and meanings and purposes that are relative to your soul journey, your psychological journey, and your body journey. And every single, and you, the manifestation of you, the you that is the soul essence relationship with the body, that you is who and what you are, that is locked down, it's manipulated, it's blocked by every angle of the universe around you. So the way it's manipulated around you is in every single detail, every single belief structure, every single thing. This is why it's so hard to even challenge the earth model, because you're challenging yourself, you're challenging your humanity. And that's It's a lot of work. The hardest thing to do is to look at yourself. It's easy to point the finger and tell somebody they're wrong. It's easy to generate some artificial answers of your reality. It's difficult to question your reality forever and organically come to these understandings, understandings, and overstandings of your reality as a whole. That's a different world. To understand, understand, and overstand on a constant expansion process of your consciousness is a different world completely, literally, than the belief structures that are based upon linear thoughts, answers. The university system, Neil deGrasse Tyson, he's got answers for you. That's what scientism is all about. And even these mainstream religions, which is why there's no difference between scientism, these professors, and all these mainstream religions. They give you the answers. They tell you to believe in it and tell you to shut your mouth and just do whatever it is that this system tells you to do. And you think you're free. You think that you're whatever. You think you're in the know. If you're not, you're in a box of whatever system that you have adopted as your reality. So every day, every month, every year, these programs are expanded based upon the level of consciousness of the people. And this is where technology comes in, and your movies and storylines and so on and so forth. They adjust to the consciousness of the people in order to maintain the storyline. So that's like what this Hidden Figures is. This movie I just saw yesterday. So what's more believable than a room full of white men in the 60s apparently so-called sending a man in orbit around the earth? What's more believable than a room of white men doing it? Well, what's more believable than that is a room full of intelligent, strong black women who actually set the foundation for that to happen. So it's like these layers and layers and layers of conditioning. Not saying that this stuff didn't exist, not saying that everybody's like in on it or whatever. What I'm saying is that it's how this story is being told. It's not necessarily what's being said. It's how the story is being told and who's telling you the story and what that story pertains to overall, not necessarily what it's saying or what it's saying it's doing. It's bigger than that. So this is how these movies, and they say like this movie was based on the untold true story. Meet the women you don't know behind the mission you do know. We're going on over 50 years now since this happened. That was in 62, 40, 55 years. Yeah, so 62, 63, this stuff went down. It took them 55 plus years to share this story. And how many other space stories were shared before this one? And why is this one being shared right now? There's a timing, there's a meaning, there's a purpose for all this stuff. You got people who are just like celebrating. Yeah. We did it. Yeah. We're responsible. We are like extra believing in the moon landing stuff now. Why? Because that's your sisters up there. They don't tell these stories. They don't know this. Like, this is that artificial pride and that nonsense that's going out there. And of course, they got the marriage and reproduction programming along with it that's in every single movie. This is about playing the numbers. It's about manipulating you and your future generations to mind control yourself constantly. And it's about shutting out your fire so that you can channel your energy, your fire, into a system that has zero concern with your well-being, zero concern with your expansion of consciousness, and full concern with your your the authority over you, dumbing down your fire. So the soul, like, I'll get back to it. The soul gets locked down. I've spoken on the conscious and the subconscious in the last few videos. So the soul fire gets locked down with mainstream religions, the New Age, the space programming, the evolution theory, the Big Bang theory, and so on and so forth. It's about separating you from your fire, from your soul fire. Then your mind gets locked down with the school system, so on and so forth. Video games is another part of this psychological programming that I'll get into in a little later, but yeah, I don't even have to really go into it. It's the same thing like movies. In fact, it's deeper than movies because you have a controller in your hand. You're emotionally engaged. You living and dying. It's death. You're interacting with people on the other side of the world playing these games. The storylines like Halo. Like, you build these characters. You build up an entire arsenal. It's like it's an entire system. It's like a movie on crack. It's basically what it is. Like a crack movie. So you're conditioning yourself times crack when you're playing these video games. And I'm not saying like don't play video games and don't watch movies and them. You can choose whatever you want to. But like for me, when I watch these movies, I'm watching them from a different perspective now because I am a different individual. I'm a different person. Like when I go and watch these movies, I'm not like when I was a kid watching them, actually conditioning myself and programming myself because I was actually believing in the system, in the storylines that are being told. I'm now watching these movies from a higher perspective to where I'm actually seeing how these movies are affecting the individual and the collective overall. Like, what do they do? And they just got to get bigger, like this IMAX. Like, I remember when IMAX came out, I can't remember when it was. It was probably like 2000, 99, 2000, something like that, or 98. But I remember when they had the IMAX theater in San Francisco. Was the first one. I think it was the Metreon. They had it was this big, like, almost theme park mall sort of thing, and the IMAX was there. And what they do is they make these movies, like a $15 movie with a screen that's like however many stories tall and goes all the way around. That's to make you believe it even more so. And when you look at all the IMAX stories, what do they have in there? All these space movies, so-called space, and Hubble, and they have James Earl Jones doing the documentary and so on and so forth. And their voices, they make you believe this stuff. And they just make it bigger. The illusion needs to be huge for you to believe into it. And it's got to be playing every single body. Your emotional body needs to play on every level. Your religious, your soul essence, your relationships, it needs to play everything to make you believe in it. So you're believing on the street level, like taking care of your family, your responsibilities, but you're also believing in the star level of the heliocentric system. So it's easy for people to see like the conspiracy of what's happening to people on the streets, but it's more difficult to go into the stars for people because you're looking at yourself, you're looking at your soul. And that's more difficult. It's easy to point the finger at somebody else, but it's difficult to start looking at yourself. And that's ultimately what challenging the heliocentric model does, is it makes you look into your soul, your spirit, your connections to something more than this generic-ass artificial reality that is maintained and amplified by the colonial universe. So it's easy, it's fun, it's trendy, it's nostalgic. And all your friends love Star Wars, they love Star Trek, they love all this stuff. It's easy. It's difficult to challenge it. That's why people have a lot of difficulty with it. And it's so difficult because you have, how far back does this stuff go? You have your superheroes, your Michael Jordans, your Tom Hanks, your Will Smiths, all your famous celebrities, and they're going on these talk shows to go talk about, their movies and talk about all this stuff, and combining it with cartoons. And the lie is so huge, it's just absurd to even think that they would be lying about something like that. But it has to be big. The biggest lies are the ones that are like, I don't remember the phrase, something like the biggest lies are the hardest ones to see or something like that. But that's what's going on here. And they're rooted so deeply in your essence of your childhood, then you won't even allow yourself to challenge any of this stuff. Not to mention the fact that these symbols that are in, like, you can look at all the symbols that are in Disney, but these symbols that are in the movies, in the vibrations that are manipulating your relationship to your subconscious, separating you from your dreams, locking you into the physical reality from the emotional body perspectives, and so on and so forth. From kindergarten to elementary to junior high to high school to your responsibility. You're now an adult. Now you have to be somebody. You have to take care of yourself, do all this shit. And then, like, you don't have time for all this, questioning the reality. And in fact, if you're questioning the reality, then it becomes unstable. Your whole life will become unstable. And people don't want to be openly insecure, but you have to break yourself down. That's the thing. You can either allow yourself to be broken by the system. You break up or you break down by the system. So you can break up into apathy, or you can break down into conditioning. So you can break up into just thinking, oh, well, everything is separate from me. That's their world. That's what's going on with them. Things will change on their own. I don't have any meaning or purpose. Everything is just as it is. I'm just going to float through this reality and not at all expand my consciousness. I'm just going to keep my head down and not question my reality at all, because I am originally from another star system. I am not this human body. See, that's the difference. That's where the new age gets you locked in, because you aren't really the human body, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist and have a meaning and a purpose. So it takes that essence of you are the soul essence, but it's just like a microwave version of understanding the fire, the soul fire. Because you're not understanding the full spectrum of that. You're understanding, if at all, a half-assed, out-of-balance version of what that truly represents. So it's not all about love and light, obviously. We have to understand the entire balances of nature. So that's another way of breaking up, being broken up by the system. You can be broken down by the system and be caught up in completely low vibrations, not give a shit about anything, and hate for the rest of your life. And that's another way of not engaging, to just be so mad at everything you don't change. You're just mad forever. You're just not doing anything. That's another way that you can be manipulated and controlled, and everybody else fits in between. They're somewhere lost in the sauce of illusions, and these illusions go back upon generations. Your parents believe in this stuff. Your kids are being programmed with this stuff on a regular basis every single day. And it feels good, because when you were a kid, you were programmed with this information and you enjoyed it. So your escape mechanism from the destructive world a lot of the times is to get with your loved one and go buy some $50 ass popcorn and soda, some genetically modified conditioning fire programs like that. It's just you can't really get away from it if you're not aware of it. You're consumed by it. So we eat genetically modified popcorn, and this this crackhead ass Coca-Cola that's crack for your body and your mind, with all the sugar and so on, and your soul, overall your soul, when you're locked into your body and mind, and a sick version of it. So we eat that shit, pay fucking hundreds of dollars for it to go watch a mind control program. And we call that, fun and like exciting and going on a date, and it's ridiculous. But that's how backwards and upside down this reality is, because we've been doing it forever, for as long as this has been going on like this. But yeah, so this is how this world works. So that's the body, what I pretty much explained, to genetically modified foods. And actually people like defending genetically modified foods. Like, why in the first place? Like, just imagine everybody on the earth was having a potluck. And then one guy shows up and is like, hey, and everyone's like, well, what's that? And he's like, oh, this is a genetically modified bag of turkey necks. Or like, okay, I can understand turkey necks or genetically yeah. Well, why'd you genetically modify it? Like, why? Because it's efficient. What the fuck are you talking about? Why? What's wrong with natural, like, regular vegetables or something outside of the meat eating program? Like, what's wrong with okay, genetically modified zucchini or something? Like, what's wrong with regular natural zucchini? Why would you want to change anything? That's another version of trying to make themselves out to be God, so they can change the genetics of something and convince you that it's okay. Then you are inherently convincing yourself that you're not okay, natural. So that's another form of this separation program on the body level too. It's like, well, if genetically modified stuff is normal, then it's okay to get butt implants and breast implants and lip implants and whatever kind of implants these people are doing nowadays. Because it's about insecurity. You're insecure about your natural experience. And that's all rooted in the fact that you are uncomfortable with who you are on the soul level. And if you're uncomfortable with who you are on the soul level, you're uncomfortable with who you are on the mind level. And if you're uncomfortable with who you are on the mind level, you're uncomfortable with your body. And it will manifest into sickness and disease, literally cancer, and these implants and all this other stuff. And it's reinforced by people like Oprah, who puts Monsanto commercials and advertisements in her magazine, and everybody loves and adores her like a demigod. So she just reinforces you poisoning yourself and your future generations. This is how these actors and these stars, these stars that just get thrown away, these dead stars, they use these stars when they can sell you something. But when that star energy burns out, they're not going to give a shit. They're just going to throw them away. Just like Jennifer Lawrence and Chris Pratt. They're hip, like they're the big ticket right now. So they're like, we're like, oh yeah, get the Hunger Games lady, and get the Guardians of the Galaxy and the TV show guy, and put them together and make them have sex in space, and make them get married. Think about marriage in space, and have them like defend and talk to robots and artificial intelligence in space, and talk about going to like another planet and do all this other stuff. Yeah, that'll make people believe it. Like, yeah, get them together right now because they're hot. They're the hot ticket. Somebody make a fucking movie about it. They're like, okay. So, and then once they're done, they're just going to cast them to the side and regenerate some new sort of a star in the sky of illusion to sell you another conditioning program. And this is why they have these constant turnover of individuals and B-list actors and B-list movies and all this stuff. because it's all about conditioning you constantly. Like, look at all this throughout the years, overall, like, you would literally, in their world, have to be crazy to challenge everything that they're trying to make you believe in reference to space. Like, something is wrong with you if you don't believe what they're telling you with movies. Where are the actual video and images of these so-called NASA things? Like, and why aren't they being released and shown? And like, where's the, they can have all these high definition images of nebula and star systems that are hundreds and thousands of light years away, but you can't get like a regular picture or image of the Earth and like so-called spinning and all that other stuff. Where's all this? And even if that were released, like these NASA images are, they're not at all like questionable. You can't question this stuff. Like, what? That's a program. That's a mind control program. And they get their heavy hitters like Sandra Bullock and Gravity and George Clooney and Tom Hanks and Apollo 13 and I don't know George Clooney. He was in some kind of space movie. I can't remember what it was. Yeah. They utilize these stars, this star energy, to convince you into the world, and you do the rest. You make the belief systems real. And it just goes on and on and on. Years after years. And you don't want to lose your friends. You don't want to lose your mind. That's the thing. You're not losing your mind. You're letting go of the artificial mind. You're letting go of the colonial universe mind. The mind that has been manipulated by these artificial gods and kings at the expense of your babies. Like I was thinking about earlier, it'd be cool for somebody to add up all the tax dollars that go into NASA over the years, over the decades of NASA, and relate it to, like, break it down financially, because that's a lot of the times that's the only way a lot of people can really believe or even entertain these stories, is like take the NASA budget over 50 years and break it down to the average household, the money that's coming out of the pockets of the average family, the food that's coming off the table monthly, yearly, over the decades, like add it up per individual, per family, and see how much of your work, your so-called responsibility, all the life that you put in, that's actually time away from your family, food off of your family's plates, paying into an illusion. That would be a good video for people who are good with numbers and making videos like that. Just to break down the numbers financially and say, well, look, this is how much money has gone into NASA. This is the average household. This is how much food. This is how many hours you've put in work to pay for a mind control program. Because there ain't no difference between NASA and the politics. The same politicians who are tied into the false flags, 9/11. So I don't see how you can believe in the gaps, the holes in the 9/11 theory, but believe in NASA. Same thing goes for CERN. You believe in CERN, that's just like believing in NASA. You believe in NASA, that's just like believing in politics. You believe in politics, it's just like believing in your slave masters. as if they give a shit about you. They never have, never will. You're a number. Just like signing those contracts to go into the military, your birth certificate, your social security number is a contract to the maritime admiralty system and the slave program as a whole. They don't give a shit about you. They just want to break you down so you can keep the kingdom afloat. That's what this whole space shit was. NASA in the back in the day was about beating the Russians to the moon, beating the Russians in orbit. So the Russians supposedly, they did it first. They put him in orbit first, but we made it to the moon. Like, okay. Egos in space. They use these heavy hitters like Steven Spielberg and J.J. Abrams to sell you these programs. They're like, oh, but they've done such good work in the past. Such good work. They wouldn't be lying. Chimpanzees did argue with his You got a bilingual mind control program. It's everywhere. Oh my God. And it's like over time, over generations. This is why, like, so when they had these shitty movies back in the day, that was to set up the platform for, like, science fiction. They're actually telling you, it's science fiction. Like, your science fiction movies like Star Wars and Star Trek, you actually believe that stuff is your future. But it really is. They're literally telling you, this is science, half-ass at best science, fiction. It's a fiction, and you make it real because they put a NASA stamp on it. But since you believe in the illusion of NASA, then you believe in whatever they're telling you. So just like in this Hidden Figures movie, so on and so forth. And then back in the day when they made these old shitty-ass movies, that really set the platform for the idea of the future. You know, they had the capabilities to make these movies in high definition and release them to people. You can see that with 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is why it wasn't released in the United States in '68 for some time, because they needed to maintain the mind control of the so-called up and coming so-called moon landing. And if you saw that movie, then you would be able to put two and two together and realize, hey, they could have really just made this shit up and filmed all this stuff in the studio. Yeah, obviously. So that's why that stuff happened. So they set the bar really low with these shitty movies in the back of the day. And so you can more believe in the so-called real life movie of landing on the moon. And then later on, over time, they'll release the classified images in high definition IMAX theaters, which could have obviously just been redone, and you see where I'm coming from. So it works all together and over time. Muppets from space. The Christmas Files. God. We got Christmas and Muppets in space. Ridiculous. On and on and on. You believe it. So this is playing, like I said, it's your soul, your mind, and your body. All these movies reinforcing transhumanism, simulation theory, physics, the universities, everything is being reinforced and sucked in and locked into your reality with your emotions, romanticizing about these relationships in space and storylines, going to another planet and fighting the dark forces in space. Yeah. And actually, like, loving this shit. Like, when people were are really excited about transhumanism. It's fucking crazy. It's everywhere. It's over time. They just keep expanding it. These TV shows, they keep you. TV shows are an escape mechanism. It's a way to get away. To get away from it all. Like, for a moment at least, live in another universe. Somewhere where the good guy always wins. But your ass is got work to do. You got a responsibility and so on and so forth. That's the living dead. And we just watch these movies, these programs on a regular basis to keep it going. Stargate. How many Stargates were there? From the movie to the TV shows. I think this is like, I don't know, 20-year anniversary or some shit like that. It's ridiculous. The Arrival, that's another one. This was before Arrival. Charlie Sheen. Aliens, alien programming. They use their actors and actresses. Superman's girlfriend. And the Star Wars general is the general in the Arrivals. You believe it. That's how they play the numbers. Soft break. Breaking you softly. Like the military going into basic training, that's a quick break. And they need to break you all the way down because you need to be broken so far out of your humanity that you will shoot people and bomb other people. Innocent people, you don't care. You're not trained to care. You're not hired to care. That's not what you think. You're a number. You're a robot. You just do what you're told. These movies are like a soft break. It's like, oh yeah, that's real. This is real. That's real. That's fake. This is real. That's fake. This is real. And that's fake. And then you get into the the breaking upwards space, the hard break of the microwave illusion of the upward space, which could be seen as like the New Age or any kind of mainstream religion, but for example purposes, the New Age breaks you upwards. Like, oh yeah, it's all about love and light. Nothing's wrong. Everything is okay. Everything is this. Don't look at that. It's apathy being pawned off as compassion. There's a difference there. But since you have people who are generating their own lives and personalities out of star systems and thought patterns that ain't no different than the religious belief systems that have been pawned off over so many generations, you can't question that. And anything that, like the flat earth information or anything that questions that system as a whole will be blocked. It'll be, and this is why people can't, in the New Age community, can't look at the flat earth realm information or the heliocentric model information, because they have been deeply programmed into that space mentality. So if you're a Pleiadian or an Andromedan, then you have to believe in the heliocentric model the way it's portrayed to you, and anything that makes you think otherwise will not at all be entertained. That ain't no different than a new religious program. And like these channelers in reference to time, they don't say anything about it. They don't say anything about the control factors of NASA programming. They don't say anything about the mind conditioning programming of that. And how I see it is why they don't say anything about that is because that literally challenges the artificial timeline that is constructed by this artificial consciousness that has been installed with all of these illusions. So these illusions, like these movies in the university system and the heliocentric model, actually creates a version of a universe that's based upon our consciousness, our belief systems. So we are generating a consciousness in the future, so-called future, that is based upon this destructive ass foundation of the so-called past. When people who have listened to channelers like Bashar before understand where I'm coming from when I talk about this stuff, it's like his channeler is supposed to be the previous life of the channel, which is 700 years in the future. So what I'm saying, he's constantly saying that their reality is based upon our existence. So the information that is coming from that channel is based upon the foundation of this destructive, disharmonic, out of balance, illusory reality that the human consciousness is within right now. Now, I'm not saying that it's completely, that's all that it is, but what I'm saying is that you have to understand that it does have an effect on the consciousness overall. So if it does have an effect on the consciousness of this present moment, best believe it's going to have an effect on the idea of so-called channels in the 700 years in the future. So if the soul consciousness is underneath the illusion of the heliocentric model, then channels in the future will also be existing underneath the illusions of a heliocentric model universe. Timelines, artificial timelines. So that's how I see channels and channelers, and how it's another way to focus on the importance of this moment, like really healing the space now, nature now. This ain't no different than why the government's so focused on going to space and all that other stuff, and doesn't give a shit about the homeless people, starving people here. They're more concerned with that because they need to maintain the illusion. And if they start taking care of one thing, then that will bring light to all the other things that maintain power, like the medical industry, like the cancer industry, where they make money off of people having cancer. This is fucked up, but this is part of the system of illusory gods and kings. And the New Age program ain't no different than what's been happening to previous generations. So it's breaking you down, breaking you up, breaking everything, instead of you breaking yourself, the illusory self, breaking the conditions, breaking the mind control. It's your responsibility to break it to the umpteenth degree in order to tap into your true soul fire, your true intellectual fire, your true physical experience, meaning and purpose fire. It's nobody else's responsibility but your own. It has ultimately nothing to do with the the government and the New World Order and all that other shit. They have no power over you at all. These illusions that we adopt give that system power. So this is why the fear mentality is so manipulated by all these so-called conspiracy theorists and alternative news people on the internet and the New World Order, Illuminati, all this stuff, is because that gives that shit power when they don't have any power to begin with. You, individually, your fire is the ultimate power. That's it. Your relationship to the soul, the Most High, your meaning and your purpose. And everybody tapped into that all at the same time is fucking devastating to the colonial universe based upon illusions. So they got to keep you distracted. They got to keep you locked into these lower bodies. They got to keep you making babies and getting married and getting a job and getting a degree and getting all this other stuff to amplify the illusion, to amplify the separation. And they get these stars to get, and they put them on these television shows so you believe them. You think you know them. You don't know them. That's their representatives. And why they go on these TV shows, they have to actually use humans to act out their will. So just like they have to use soldiers to pull the trigger to expand the colonial program, these actors and actresses are soldiers for the mind control program. And they are the ones that actually have to make you believe it. Just like soldiers going to war and how they amplify that whole war mentality. It's like, oh yeah, like good job. Like our soldiers are number one. They have to tell that story because they have to reinforce the military industrial complex is number one. Ramses is number one. His arms are number one. His strength is number one. It's ridiculous. This is the WW. This is a luchador. Oh shit. They make you believe in this stuff with these fake ass stars in this fake universe. Heavy hitters, Tom Hanks. They get you. They play you from the high. Like I said, they can play you. They can break you up and break you down. They play you on fear, and they play you with like the alien agenda. They can play you on fear, and they can play you on love. So this is, the alien agenda has a top and a bottom. The alien agenda, like Independence Day, fear of being attacked by a higher intelligence alien system. And then you have the love and light. They're going to come and save us. The savior, the Pleiadians, they're going to come and save everything. Get the fuck out of here with all this stuff. You believe in it. You believe in any of that stuff. It creates your... You make your own prison. And when you lock yourself up in these conditions, then you're just allowing the kings, the artificial gods and kings, to rule over you. So they play it with fear, they play it with love, they play it with nostalgia, they play it with family matters, your humanity, your savior, the good versus evil. They play it with everything, the soul, the mind, and the body. So they sell you Alien, all the Alien movies, and then the Predator movie, and then Alien versus Predator. Arnold Schwarzenegger out there. He fights, and get Apollo Creed out there to go fight with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah, Rocky and all this other shit. Whoever is hot at the time, they tell you, go out there and sell this program. And if you say anything about it, gonna take your ass out. So they got Alien and Alien versus and Predator and Alien versus Predator. And then you got Predators, Predator versus Predator. It's ridiculous. Like I said, up and down. Comedy, love, fear, destruction, war, good, evil. All of it. Playing with your emotions. Playing with your child mind. You get it when and it's a well-oiled machine. Like, parents don't have a lot of time to be spending with their kids, so they have all these movies. Kids watch these movies and they get programmed. And they fall into the system. No wisdom anymore. No knowledge at all. It's just illusion. Whatever we're told to believe. Like the school system is just about repetition. Remember this, write it down, make sure you remember it, and then that's it. And you can dump it when you graduate. You're not going to use any of it.